Donald J. Trump officially declared the president-elect of the United States. He won the election last night. The AP called the race around 4 in the morning or so. He took to the stage roughly around 2:30 to declare victory in a speech. We have some of that speech. This is the correct one this time. Let's take a listen and let's cue it up and watch.
Well, I want to thank you all very much. This is great. These are our friends. We have thousands of friends in this incredible movement. This was a movement like nobody's ever seen before. And frankly, this was, I believe, the greatest political movement of all time. There's never been anything like this in this country and maybe beyond.
So, I personally hate this comment that President Trump made. I'm not a Democrat and I'm not a rhino. I am a true Republican at the time, right now, because they are the best party right now. But what bothers me about this comment is it's completely disrespectful to the actual biggest political movement that ever happened in this country, which was President Lincoln's radical anti-slavery movement that he started with the start of the Republican Party. That political movement literally led to a civil war, and it was a civil war where the radicals won. So I don't think that, even though obviously I am a huge fan and I think it's a really great accomplishment what we have done with getting Trump reelected, it's still a huge discredit to what has actually happened in history, and I don't like it when President Trump does stuff like this. Although sometimes it's funny, but when it's inaccurate, it's gross.
And now it's going to reach a new level of importance because we're going to help our country heal. We're going to help our country heal. We have a country that needs help, and it needs help very badly. We're going to fix our borders. We're going to fix everything about our country. And we made history for a reason tonight, and the reason is going to be just that. We overcame obstacles that nobody thought possible, and it is now clear that we've achieved the most incredible political thing. Look what happened. Is this crazy? But it's a political victory that our country has never seen before, nothing like.
Again, he's doing a discredit to history because President Lincoln, he ran against the establishment in a very similar way that Trump is, or did, and he won the popular vote by 10.4% in the Electoral College by a whopping 35.6%. So I just can't jive with this was the greatest political victory. There are probably even other examples of super controversial wins in the presidency, but I don't think that his win is more significant than President Lincoln's.
Yes, I want to thank the American people for the extraordinary honor of being elected your 47th president and your 45th president. And every citizen, I will fight for you, for your family, and your future. Every single day, I will be fighting for you, and with every breath in my body, I will not rest until we have delivered the strong, safe, and prosperous America that our children deserve and that you deserve.
So there we go. That was the victory speech. It continued for a little bit while. Kamala Harris will be giving her concession a little bit later today. Guys, we can put that up on the screen. Roughly around 4 p.m. Eastern time here in Washington from Howard University, where she spent some of election night at her party on Tuesday. The news leaked out roughly around 2 a.m. that she wouldn't be taking the stage to give her concession at that time. But yeah, I mean, for those who were not not watching live, we had a fun joke about the fact that the right is very upset that she is not giving a concession. And I mean, like on principle, I do agree that she just conceded like last night and/or this morning, like Hillary Clinton.
This is a literal shit show. Their main host has said like 3 typos in the first 3 minutes, and like 2 of those minutes was Trump talking. Also, when they showed the information for when Kamala will be giving her concession speech, they only showed the heading of the article, but not the actual information that they were trying to give the audience, which is hilarious. You guys should definitely up your production value.
But yeah, she's decided to drag it out a little bit. Also, we have not heard a word from the White House,
which
is kind of crazy.
For the people who weren't there for.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Let them hear our decent counter, which is that
be my guest.
Trump still to this day has not given his concession speech for 2020.
So now he doesn't have to, and now he never has to.
He should give one.
Huh?
He should
now
give
would
one.
be the time. What does he have to lose?
Face. He has face to lose. You don't admit a loss that you didn't actually lose to. It's clear that the 2020 election definitely was iffy. They seem to have found pretty legal ways of cheating, so it's ridiculous. If you think that that's true, then that's a reason within itself to not ever give a concession speech. Why concede when you didn't lose? Also, he never had to give a concession speech, even if he did think he lost. It's not like it's like a rule where someone has to give a concession speech. It's much more like a tradition. It's not like it's required to give a concession speech in order to have a peaceful transfer of power, even though I know a lot of people on the left think that that's somehow required. But really all that's required is when it's your turn to be done in the office, you leave the office. Which, that's exactly what he did.
Give his farewell.
You should be like, you know what? I
matters.
actually did lose in 2020.
JK, guys.
Yeah.
It was just, what did he say? He was being sarcastic or something?
He said he was being sarcastic.
Yeah, because he did actually sort of kind of admit that he lost. And then when he got asked about it at the debate, he was like, I wasn't being for real.
Correct.
I was just joking
really
about
won.
that. Now he could do the reverse and be like, that
Anyway.
whole stop this deal stuff, I didn't mean it.
Right.
Anyway.
It's over.
No, but
it's
this
finally
is
over.
I will say this is legitimately a huge lingering question for the MAGA right, which poured millions of dollars. Everyone knows, I mean, if you were in the conservative space for the last couple of years, all the donor energy and money was behind election integrity.
That's right.
And they were yesterday, Donald Trump was saying, he was pointing to alleged irregularities all over the country.
Yep,
and so
that's right.
this is going to be a huge, huge question. Are they going to claim that the election integrity counter efforts worked?
If they are the left and liberals, then of course they're going to claim that the election integrity countermeasures worked. They're on the side of there was never an issue with the elections in the first place, so why wouldn't they claim that the countermeasures worked? Now, if you're talking about the right, they're going to probably claim the opposite because the leader of the right now believes that there were irregularities. So I think the answer to that one is pretty obvious.
I mean, seriously.
We'll never hear another word about it.
Let's all be honest.
hold on.
It's all fake. And it's just never going to happen.
But this is actually a point I want to elaborate on because I was just on Piers Morgan with that guy Vinny from PPD.
Okay.
And he was saying all this, the number one priority in the Trump administration needs to be election integrity because the Democrats flew all these illegals into swing states, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, if they did that, why didn't it deliver for them? Like, what happened?
It's not they did. There's factual evidence of that, and it didn't work because there wasn't enough of them to counteract the conservative-minded people who voted in the previous election. It's pretty much that simple. But if you gave them more time, like, say, another 4 years, we would be looking at a much worse situation. There's also nothing remotely funny about the prospect of Democrats holding forever power, or either party holding forever power in America. That's not something to take lightly. That completely goes against what we stand for as America and having a democratic republic. So either she thinks that this idea is so preposterous that no one should take it seriously, which is ridiculous because, again, there is literally evidence for it on the record that this is happening, or she's fully aware of the fact that it's happening, and she's literally evil, and she's laughing in the face of her whole audience while pretending that it's not happening, and probably would benefit very largely if, she gets away with acting like this isn't happening, but then eventually it does, and then Democrats hold forever blue power. So I hope that she just thinks it's preposterous and that she's not doing her job in actually looking into the facts of this. But that's not exactly good either. You are a professional political commentator. It's your job to investigate claims like this and not just laugh them away because you think that they're ridiculous and that somehow your whole party is just too moral to ever try to instill forever power for their party. Which is clearly not true because they've been going around claiming that the other side is Hitler and that they have the moral high ground and that pretty much any means is justified to make sure that our whole side doesn't have power in this country.
They voted for Trump. They voted for Trump.
I guess that's it. The Latino shift. Like, you ended up winning them, so I guess you're welcome.
Anyways,
It's just an absolute fact that most of the people who are foreign-born citizens in this country are going to vote blue because they rely on the resources and benefits that they would get from Democratic policies. They're not going to get anywhere near as much from a Republican administration. This point that she made about Trump flipping Hispanics doesn't counter that argument because most of the Hispanics in this country are, specifically 68% in 2022, are natural-born citizens. Only 32% are migrants. Not to mention, a lot of the migrants being flown into this country illegally are not even Hispanic. They come from other countries, like Middle Eastern countries and African countries. So they wouldn't mark themselves as Hispanics, and therefore they wouldn't be counted as the people who got flipped, the Hispanic people who got flipped in the 2024 election. But it's still a well-known fact that no matter what country you come from, if you are a foreign-born citizen, democratic policies make it easier from the time you're trying to enter the country to after you're here and trying to get settled. So it's just bullshit to think that the vast majority of these people would not vote blue, which is why this is a huge, huge problem. And another point, they were trying their best to make these illegal aliens as legal as fast as possible in order to give them the right to vote, but they weren't actually able to do that for, I don't even know what percentage of them, but I would guess it's pretty large because we have a lot of red tape in place to make that difficult. So we don't even know how bad it could get because of that. But again, if they were given another 4 years, they would have had a whole lot more time to legalize these illegal aliens and get their blue voting base. I just want to end with an analysis of the demeanor of Krystal in this clip because she is a Democrat who just lost in the 2024 election, and she's at work laughing about the result. So I just want that to sink in. Like, why doesn't it matter more to her? I mean, I respect not being all liberal tears, but at the same time, I'm interested in trying to understand, like, what is going on here. Is she pretending to be lighthearted about it in an effort to seem strong? Which, that's understandable, and I don't really condemn her for that too much, except for the fact that that does result in her not taking the whole situation seriously enough. Or is it even worse? where she is genuinely unfazed by the loss, which might seem okay at first, but when you analyze that more deeply, why isn't she fazed? Is it because she trusts in her party and that they have good morals and that eventually they will be back in power in a way that is beneficial to the country as a whole? But that still doesn't make enough logical sense, because even if she thought that Trump wasn't really Hitler but just is going to be a really bad president, that would still mean that her party has a lot of work to do to right this wrong, and therefore this very lighthearted demeanor that she's carrying doesn't really match that need for work. So I don't think she just has genuine faith that her party is going to like handle this situation, because handling this situation will be a giant hill to climb, which she shouldn't be laughing about. Or is it more sinister than that? Is she unfazed because she has faith in her party, because she knows something about the plan that she pretends to, or is either pretends or is ignorant of, that is indeed happening with them trying to instill forever power? I find it very troubling, those two combination of things. One, she won't look into and admit that there is evidence for this. She's framing it as an if this happened. So that's an issue. That's the first one. Then two, she's also very, very unfazed by Trump winning for the next 4 years, and her side has been calling him Hitler. Like, now she's laughing. So did she never think that there was really much truth to that? Or is she genuinely unfazed by Hitler being president? Why? Why is that? If she's genuinely unfazed, then there's only two options. Either she thinks that Trump was and is not and never was Hitler, or two, she knows that Hitler won't be a problem. The first one is terrible, because she has been supporting a side that has been perpetuating something that would be a lie from her perspective. And two, the second one is even worse for obvious reasons. So neither one of these things looks good if she's genuinely unfazed. So here's hoping that it's an act. But again, even if it is an act, if she's pretending to be unfazed and inside she's crying and wailing and afraid, then all that amounts to is she's being severely dishonest to people she legitimately owes honesty to. So in none of these situations is this a win for her.